Okay, so this is my third time trying to record this. I was having a problem with lip syncing and the video being delayed, so we'll see if this ends up working. But this is the first dungeon debacle that I'm going to be recording, and I wanted to talk about my very first dungeon debacle that I had as a dungeon master. I had been playing with my boyfriend and his friends, and one of his friend's fathers, I believe, was dungeon mastering, and then eventually one of his friends took over and started dungeon mastering. But we didn't get to meet on a super regular basis. It was kind of like just a night here or there. But on all of the occasions, I felt a little disappointed, I guess, with how interactive the world was. I felt like it could be much bigger and more fleshed out. I was annoyed that I was in high school, so I was annoyed that there was no weather, that the weather never seemed to change. I was annoyed that every person we came across we were supposed to kill. And I just wanted a more well-rounded world. So I thought maybe I would give dungeon mastering a try. And that's what I decided to do when it was just me and my boyfriend. I told him that I'd like him to make a character and I would like to try to DM for him. So we did that. He started out in a little village. He did combat. I think I gave him an NPC. This is like 15 years ago, so I'm doing this off of memory. I gave him an NPC to kind of roll around with. I can't remember if I was controlling the NPC or if he was, but it was probably me and I just forgot about it. Another problem for dungeon masters, if you guys have ever tried to control an NPC and completely forgotten about them. Happens to me all the time, still. But after the fight, he ended up going into the woods. There was woods that was nearby. I don't remember why he was going over there, but I do remember I had put some elves in the woods. One of them was a scout. At this point, I didn't have any type of story really developed. I was just kind of seeing if I could run combat and if I could imagine a world, I guess, that they could interact with. So they went in there, and instead of killing the scout like I kind of had planned for them, it was a monster. The person was around their level, and it was like they're just going to go in there, kill, and then they'll get to the elven city or whatever. But that's not what happened. He went in there and he's like, I deal non-lethal damage, and I was like, what does that mean? Even up to this point, I had been playing, and I don't ever remember running into non-lethal damage. I had kind of read the Dungeon Master's Guide, but I didn't own a copy, so I just read some pages here and there. And so he knocked the elf unconscious, and then he revives her with a medicine check, and started talking to her. And I didn't have a name for this character. I didn't know who she was scouting for. I didn't know what she was expecting to find in the woods, what they were trying to protect against. There was just so much. She was just a shell, essentially. And after my boyfriend attempted to talk with her, and she, I tried my hardest. I was like, she's not interested in talking. She's a scout. She was just trying to do her job. And, she was protecting against predators. And the elves don't want people walking around the forest. I mean, it was nice and simple. But instead of letting her go, he just decides, I'm going to tie her up, and I'm going to drag her along with me. And at that point, I was like, we gotta stop. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with her. I don't know what to do with you. I don't know why you're dragging her along and how to act her. I don't know what you would do. So that was my first dungeon mastering experience, and I had to quit the game as the dungeon master. After the fact, I learned a lot of different things. One of the things that my boyfriend at the time told me was that if you put something that's intelligent in the game, you have to realize that your players might try to interact with them. So talk with them, get a name, get some motivation or like goal intentions, and that you either have to plan to ad-lib that or you have to plan ahead and assign that to them, or, you know, get some sort of generic features you can add to them if your players decide to interact with them. So that was a really big lesson that I learned. The next big lesson that I learned is that dungeon mastering and ad-libbing is really, really hard when you first start out, and it made me stop judging the character or the other people that had been dungeon mastering for me at the time, because I was trying to interact with everything. I was trying to pick up flowers on the road. I was trying to pick up rocks and throw them at things. I mean, I was probably a nightmare to dungeon master for. So in that regard, it gave me a lot more sympathy for my dungeon master. And it also taught me to prepare ahead of time. If I don't think that I can ad-lib something, then I need to make sure that I have, even if it's just something generic that I can plug into any character, I need to have some sort of backup for that. And it taught me that players will do things you don't expect, and they will always do things you don't expect. That's part of what makes dungeon mastering fun, is that you get to feel that element of surprise that a lot of times as you become an adult you lose. Your players will bring it back to you full force. So yes, that was my first dungeon mastering experience. Obviously I got a lot better at making things up on the fly, and I also definitely took that lesson to heart of when I introduce an intelligent character, I will know at least somewhat of a background for them. So if they're asked, they have an answer. Or they, you know, avoid an answer if that's their personality. And those were the things that I learned. So, first debacle, over with and learned from. There you have it.